Time to start over. We're doing it live. One cut. Starting now. Hi, I'm Ryan.
Hey, I'm Nate.
Hello, I'm Steve. And today on Table Talk, we are talking about the new UA that just came out on the Cleric class and a couple of species and some feats that were in there. And we're going to discuss the changes to the Cleric class, the changes to these races, and what we think about it.
No,
give
it's
our
not
opinions.
races anymore. Get with the times.
It's species.
You had it right the first time.
And taxonomically, this is much more preferred.
I was gonna say I feel like it makes more sense because some of these motherfuckers might not even be the same species. They're a different like genus or some
totally
shit.
Different. Phylum.
Totally.
All of that.
Phylum. All those biology words.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, worth pointing out. Thank you for correcting me. And so we're going to take a look at all that stuff today and let you know our unabridged thoughts on it.
First off, if I can just say something real quick, I'm really enjoying these PDFs. They're really well written, and I'm glad that we're getting one of the priest classes because they're the ones who are kind of like the most, I guess. I wasn't sure about when they introduced this divine and primal magic. I'm curious to get sort of the distinction once we get the druid one as well. Now that we have the cleric.
Oh, just like between the different classes of magic, or
yeah,
absolutely. I wish they would have released more than just the cleric, like a druid alongside it. That would have been the ideal way to do it.
It wouldn't surprise me if they do druid like next because of exactly what you said. It's like, hey, let's get our arcane, or what is it, arcane?
Priests and mages.
No, it's divine, primal, and
arcane.
Okay. So I had it right. Jeez.
Yeah, the 3 schools of magic in One D&D. I would also like to learn more about the paladins too, since they are part of the priests. I think when we saw the class groups, we all thought they'd be warriors, but turns out they're priests. And I'm really curious to see what is the difference between a cleric and a paladin now.
I'll also go ahead and say, if you can't hear it, I'm a little bit under the weather, and Steve is just getting over being a little bit under the weather. So
we don't live next to each other. It wasn't my fault that you got sick. Totally separate.
I don't think you needed to clarify that, but now people are going to wonder.
I feel fine.
And Ryan feels fine.
See?
We do live near each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now it seems like Ryan poisoned us. Am I the only one who just thought that? I don't know. Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, do you think Ryan is a poisoner or not? A poisoner.
God, don't even start.
Okay, so the cleric. Yeah, the cleric. So
what are your general thoughts, first of all, about the cleric, about the changes to cleric, how it compares to 5th edition? Because I personally just in general, I like these changes. I like what I'm seeing.
I like the changes as well, but the cleric is the subclass or the class in 5th edition that has the most subclasses, right? There are all these domains. So I feel like this has the power, this changing of the cleric has the power to greatly increase or decrease the strength and effectiveness of the entire cleric class. Because there are just so many different clerics that are all already wildly having different effectiveness in the realm of D&D. They're not all clerics are created equal. But yeah,
so it feels to me like the versatility in the class in 5th edition comes from all the different subclass options, whereas now the base class has some versatility and some options you can choose to make it your own, built into the base class itself.
Yeah, I think I like the changes too. Like one of the big ones is like the domain choice is moved from 1st level to 3rd level, and I think that's good. I think it makes sense for all the classes to progress in the exact same way for parity and balance. So I think do it with every class. And I like the aspect of before you even choose the domain, you choose aspects of how you're going to be a cleric. Like this is what you were just saying, Nate. And so it's called the new thing is called in the second level Holy Order. And so you pick Protector, Scholar, or Thaumaturge, and that kind of, are you a warrior? Are you a scholarly type with lots of proficiencies, or are you a little bit better magic user?
Yeah, this really gives you a lot of versatility in that, like, you would have to be like a dwarf cleric in order to get some of these things before. Now anybody can do it. Like some of the dwarven proficiencies that were in early 5th edition were the only ways to get like heavy armor and stuff like that. I think Wardomain later had it, but
yeah, or you'd be locked into like a few different subclasses that had heavy armor, martial weapons, things like that. To your point, Steve, I felt like it always kind of made sense for the cleric to have their subclass, their domain at first level, because that kind of, like, you as a cleric know who you worship and stuff, and I feel like your subclass really, or who you worship influences your subclass quite a bit. But I do feel like with the changes in 1D&D, that's less significant and less necessary to have it right off the bat.
For me, I totally love that you get to pick it at 3rd level, just specifically for RP reasons. If you're playing a low-level campaign where you have like this, say you're a person who wants to be a cleric and you have this god you want to worship, or maybe a bunch of different gods, you have time to then choose, which god do I want? Or maybe you pick one god at 1st level, and then a part of being a cleric is that not everybody who worships that god is a cleric. The god chooses the cleric to give them the power. So at 3rd level, you're finally worthy of the whole breadth of that god's power. So you have some character development to make in those early levels, which I think
Here's my
great RP
my counterpoint, though, in that, so you have powers, you have spell slots and things at levels 1 and 2. Aren't clerics supposed to be getting their divine powers from the worship of their chosen deity or anything? So what's happening in levels 1 and 2?
Like, so the god's up there, and he's got like a faucet of power. And he's got it dribbling a little bit if you're a level first or second level. And once you hit 3rd level, he bumps it all the way, and you get all the holy power flowing down through you.
If I wanted to be serious about my explanation, I would say that if you think about the aspect of a god and receiving prayer and offerings and worship, the god can hear prayers from anybody who offers prayers to the god, but that doesn't mean that every single person who prays to them will get magic bestowed upon them. And so it's trickled down in varying degrees. If you're a 1st level, 2nd level person, well, you haven't utterly devoted your life and clericness to me yet, so yeah, I'll give you some shreds of power to see if maybe you will choose me. But then, yeah, you could explain it that way, something like that, I think.
Do you think that at like levels 1 and 2, you can kind of like try it? You can get that little trickle of power from like different gods. It's kind of be like, oh, try this one. I'll try this, like a little
however your world
slut.
Works. However your world works. You know, yeah, maybe you're on the trial period for all the gods, and you're just trying to keep going. You get to make a new email every month to get to get that free trial period.
Yeah, and I feel like I have read in several adventures NPCs that are acolytes, and they have cleric spells, but they're not full-fledged clerics, and you could flavor it something like that. But the reason that I really like this change is because it allows for the variance that it didn't before. The god of war, for example, could totally make use of a frail scholarly type, and would, if that frail scholarly type wanted to serve the god of war and offered prayers and devotion and stuff like that. The god of war would make use of that. He doesn't have to then transform into this armor-clad, great axe wielding something or the other, you know? And so it's cool for people to be able to create whatever character that they want, to do whatever they want.
I imagine
we've come a long way from the what, Ryan? Sorry, go ahead.
I imagine the scholar god of war, the god of war scholar cleric is just Sun Tzu. You know, he's not out there with his heavy armor. He's out there writing how to effectively kill your enemies.
The god of war needs logistics to help make the blood flow.
Yeah. You got to pay all the soldiers. You got to make sure the army gets fed, all that kind of stuff.
So what do you guys think about do you think the whole Smite Undead feature should be necessarily part of the Cleric chassis always? Or do you think there should be like the anti-undead, like Protector, Scholar, Thaumaturge, and then, Undead Destroyer?
Yeah, this is something I had written down that I wanted to bring up, because I was expecting that to change maybe, because I don't want to say I've disliked it, but I've never particularly cared for that aspect of clerics because it's so very situational. It's going to come up, unless you're playing on that kind of campaign, it's like, I'm never going to use this shit.
Yeah.
I'm never going to run into zombies or whatever. And like, so why do I even have this? Why is it built into my class so distinctly?
The base class at that. I've never understood why every single cleric has to have this feature. And I don't appreciate it much, honestly.
At this point, it just kind of seems like they're following tradition. And I say, fuck tradition.
Yeah. They have obviously put into the lore that there's evil gods and therefore evil clerics. So why would evil clerics inherently want the ability to destroy undead? I mean, if we're going for variance, this is a weird thing to put into every single cleric class or subclass that there is.
Imagine, if you're the evil cleric, but you have these undead minions and you just use destroy undead to just keep your minions in line. It's like,
or turn undead, but so you turn them towards the enemy.
Yeah. Maybe you're just that cleric. You really just don't trust your DM. Every NPC, you just try it on them. Like, okay, they're safe. They're not a vampire. That'd be kind of funny. You're like a paranoid cleric, and you're just waiting for that one time it works.
You're also begging the DM then to try and sneak one on you, because you'll probably forget one of these days. And the second you do, if I'm the DM, I'm slipping them in there.
It's going to be that shopkeeper. You're just trying to change some coins into the local currency. Turns out that was the vampire, and you missed him.
Okay, so then we also got the life subclass.
Yeah.
Which I say, well, actually, before we get there, Channel Divinity changed slightly. You got Divine Spark, which is this attack version
or
that
heal.
You can use it for.
Divine Spark is an attack or a heal, and I really like that feature.
Or you can heal it, and I agree. I think it's cool to give if that's something that I think should be inherent to the base class is a healing ability. I agree with that. That makes sense. And then the ability to turn that into damage, that's cool, and that makes sense as well. And it saves a lot of the subclasses. They're like 13, 14, and 5e. About half of them had like very meh or garbage channel divinities. And this kind of saves that and allows them to have something that is usable no matter what. So I think that's a good change.
Yeah, that's why I'm not like overly upset about the whole turn undead or, the undead thing, is because they give you a good alternative that everyone can use.
And the fact that it scales the number of times with your proficiency bonus is good.
Yeah, the scaling is very good on that. I will say on Disciple of Life and Blessed Healer, those subclass features, I don't know if that would scale too well at those mid to higher tier levels. What was it? I believe it was the 2 plus the level of the spell cast extra healing.
Yeah.
Like at low levels, that's pretty great. But once you start getting up to like levels, even like up to like level 10, but especially like 15 through 20, that's not really much of a big bonus. And one of those comes at like a level 11, I think. And already then it's kind of like, yeah, it's cool. It's like an extra, few points of healing, but not that much.
Yeah, it definitely falls off. I'm wondering if they will, if they'll have, whenever they make more of these in the eventual 5th edition DM's Guide or Monster Manual PHB, that they'll have certain magic items in that book that are designed to augment these abilities, because that does seem quite weak.
I think we already have the 5th edition versions of those books.
Sorry, One D&D.
So yeah, I was going to say this. The life subclass seems to have gotten nerfed because the Disciple of Life, all the features are the same. They're just shifted around. From 5e to 1D&D, Disciple of Life moves back from 2 to 3. Preserve Life moves back from 2 to 6. And Blessed Healer moves back from 6 to 10.
However, you're also getting those extra base class features.
Yeah, and so this is this kind of goes back to what you said earlier, Nate, on like it makes sense that at level 1 you know which god you serve and where your powers are coming from. So this seems to be more as that like you're in the cleric hood. You have devoted your life to being a cleric, and so in that sense you have a little bit of access to divine magic, and you just haven't specified yet until level 3, and that's when a god actually says, okay, here you go. So I like it that way. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and you can,
even with those features, I would still say life got nerfed just slightly.
Yeah. I don't know if I really got that impression, but I will say, and also you can definitely be worshiping a particular god at levels 1 and 2, but like when your subclass come around, it's like, this is my particular flair.
Yeah, I mean, when you start a campaign as a level 1 fighter, most of the time players know what subclass they're going to choose in 2 levels. They already know. They already know what kind of subclass they want to start playing. Most times.
Mostly.
But by the way, there are 15 official cleric subclasses on D&D Beyond.
God dang.
But that we've got a lot to cover in this PDF, and this is probably the one we'll have the least to talk about.
You think?
I think so.
I don't know.
I
would have said the most
about these
but...
species.
Okay, well, let's go to species then.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about them.
The Ardling, I think, was the first one, which is just like, hey, you know what? Wizards of the Coast decided to be like, you know what, furries, here you go crazy.
I think it's great.
It's neat.
We have had like singular iterations of animalistic humanoids for generations now. Like, we're going for variants. Why not have dog people and rabbit people and all the other things?
And I prefer it all, compressed into this one species instead of having a bunch of like, oh, this is what the elephant people are like, and this is what the bird people are like.
Tabaxi, like, Loxodon. It's just is so much more simple. And what I love about the Ardling is that if you're not into that whole furry thing, or maybe your table is, you can change the way they look depending on whatever your table is most comfortable with, or what works most for your world in general. And so I don't really think there's much to complain about at all here, although I'm sure the internet will.
I know there's going to be like some DMs out there or some like rules lawyer type players who will be like, oh no, it doesn't say you can have a tail specifically in the species description, so you can't have a tail. It's just like, it was like the old tiefling, like, can they have hooves or something like that? It's like, shut up.
Yes, shut up. Totally agree.
Played a Dragonborn without a tail. They're just so much cooler with a tail.
I would go as far as to say a Dragonborn without a tail looks kind of messed up.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it looks odd. Yeah, but whatever.
Back then they were trying to differentiate between half dragons and Dragonborn.
Oh yeah.
Screw it.
True. Okay, hey, Dragonborn's on this list, so we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Ardlings.
So we have 4 categories of Ardlings that you can just seemingly pick any animal so long as it ostensibly fits into that category. Climber, flyer, racer, and swimmer.
And for the record, if you haven't looked at the PDF, you can find it on D&D Beyond. But the Ardling is a race that is more or less a humanoid version mixed with an animal. And how far that goes is kind of up to you. You could look more human and have, fur, feather, and scales, or you could straight up look like a bear person. Whatever you want to do with it. But they are medium, about 4 to 7 feet, or you can be small, 3 to 4 feet, depending on which species you choose.
Which is a long lifespan as well.
Yeah, up to 200 years on average.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool for just dipping your feet in some shallow lore. That's got a lot of implications.
Yeah.
So which
I would
one
say
these,
normally I feel like animal type folks should have shorter lifespans since they typically do. But if you look at the the lore part. It's like, okay, yes, makes sense.
Yeah, it's from that outer
They're
plane,
descended
the
from these
Beastlands.
ancient beings, from the
Yeah.
Beastlands and the multiverse and blah, 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 blah.
So climbers, they have a climb speed equal to their walking speed, and once per turn, they can deal damage with their unarmed strike to a target to increase damage equal to the proficiency bonus. That's cool. I'd probably play a climber.
Climbing speed's always nice. Extra movement speed is just nice. So it's a pretty good one. And of the animals listed, I gotta say I'm partial to things like that, like the bear, the squirrel, the cat. What else is on climber? I don't remember,
Lizard.
but they're good options. Lizard. Well, I'm not much of a lizard person. But
you can finally make a D&D equivalent of the Norse god Ratatasker. You can be a squirrel person, a small squirrel person.
There you go.
Ryan's been itching for it.
I have Ratatasker right here.
You've answered
somewhere.
my emails.
Oh, you can't see my. He's up here somewhere.
You have him on you?
Yeah, he's on my Yggdrasil tattoo. There's a little. He's a little squirrel up in the tree. And Jormungandr's down below, and
And you can make I guess there's not really a snake person, but
I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, you could try. You can flavor it somehow. So the next one is flyer.
Not overpowered.
Yeah, not overpowered. You doesn't give you fly speed.
Although I will say, kind of disappointing that it doesn't even give you like maybe just a limited fly speed or a situational fly speed. But still pretty cool.
It's specifically vestigial wings, so not useful, purposeful wings.
But what it does give you is the ability to, as a reaction, slow your descent if falling. So you kind of have like a self feather fall. And you have advantage on skill checks related to jumping because you flap your wings to help propel yourself.
Tiny little like. Flip, 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 flip.
This is great for the world that we created in our last big campaign, the last like super long one with the Inteo. We have bat people now that are sanctioned by Wizards of the Coast, which is cool for our universe.
Yeah.
So next up is Racer. So when you take the dash action, your speed increases for that action, and that increase is equal to 10 times your proficiency bonus.
You can be some fast boys.
Yes. All right. I have some notes on this one. Okay. So I did the math. This means that if you are a level 6 rogue Triceratops person, because that's one of the options listed, and why wouldn't you pick that one? I don't know. You can move 90 feet on a dash action, or 150 feet if you also then take it as a bonus action. That's pretty crazy. A level 6 barbarian can run 110 feet per turn using a dash. A level 6 totem elk barbarian can run 125, and a totem eagle barbarian can use dash as a bonus action, and they can make it 165 feet on a single turn.
Look, that's pretty crazy. That's like super fast, especially compared to everything else in D&D that we've seen so far. But honestly, I don't think it's like overpowered or imbalanced or anything, because how often is that really gonna like make a huge difference that I could just go super fast?
Yeah,
you're right.
Have more attacks or anything.
No. Needing to do over 100 feet of movement is very unique, but having just movement at hand, if you're a barbarian, you can just like attack, and then you know what? Screw it. I'll take the opportunity attack. I withdraw, and you can withdraw out of range from their movement speed or something. Like this is there's ways I think with movement in combat you can always find an advantage.
It is.
I think it was with Marcus. I was considering kind of going towards. He was a monk. Sorry, I was going towards this build of where I like go in, smack, 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 run out of range. You could definitely do that with that racer feature. Like that could be pretty cool. I like that idea of being super mobile instead of trying to tank damage and stuff.
It's basically also having just Zephyr Strike built into your character. Like imagine you pick the subclass fighter. You can just basically always have Zephyr Strike because you can give yourself advantage on certain things.
You're still vulnerable to opportunity attacks unless you have another feature helping you out, though.
Yeah. So you can make Sonic the Hedgehog in D&D.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We got to make a TikTok about that or something. I do like the idea that it's like deer, dog, horse, and triceratops.
Yeah. Everyone go check out the Dungeon Vets TikTok. There's nothing on it yet. We're working on it.
But yeah, favorite it.
But yeah, it's there.
It's there, yeah.
And tell your friends about it. It's a good place just to hang out and
it's
have on in the background while you're doing whatever else you want to do.
Yeah,
all or nothing.
You're meditating or something like that. It'll be nice.
Silence.
Some nice silence.
All right, and the last category is swimmer. Unsurprisingly, they get a swim speed, but they also get the feature where they can hold their breath for an hour and resistance to cold damage.
Cool.
I say that if you have aquatic stuff in your campaign, this is the clear winner.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure.
Bacon resistance is nice.
Does it specify can hold your breath up to 1 hour underwater, or is that just in general?
Probably in general.
That could be useful in a lot more situations than just swimming.
We've even had air ganassi in our campaign that been used to that. Just I don't have to breathe right now.
So. With a couple of gaseous spells and stuff, they were just fine. Mm-hmm. That's a good point, and that makes me say even more so this is the clear winner, I think. If you're going for optimization anyways, but you can have fun with any of these, especially the Triceratops one.
Yeah, so I think I like Racer the best out of them,
and I like Climber.
Yeah. There we go. We got our adventuring party of Ardlings.
So what do you think about this race? Is this going to replace the like Kenku, Aarakocra, Lizard Folk, Grung, all of that stuff, or do you think it's a supplement, Tabaxi as well?
I have no idea. And even though I said, like, I kind of like the idea of having all of these compressed down into one that you can just choose options from, I also don't really like the idea of losing, like, Aarakocra are, like, pretty big.
They're different, right? Definitely.
Yeah. They're different. And they have that fly thing, which, in the right campaign could be amazing and not too much of a pain in the ass for your DM.
Yeah, talk about people on the internet getting upset about stuff. Like, and there's so many things, like you're going to get rid of all of them, the Leonins and the Satyrs and the stuff that just came out. I don't think they are, but
I would be surprised if that really is all of the animal-y species rolled up into one here. I would be surprised if we don't see some of those make a reappearance in some shape or form.
Well, very well.
Animalistic.
I got to admit,
animalistic is
world building.
The right word there. Thank you.
World building purposes, this simplifies the bestial races greatly for me.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's better, but I could see people being upset about losing stuff.
So,
because are you going to lose?
They also get thaumaturgy, and they got proficiency in perception. So, because they're animals.
Both
well, hold on.
Useful.
Thaumaturgy.
Yeah,
I believe it says.
Any other cantrip under their divine spell list.
Yeah, you can switch it out after a long rest.
Under the oh my gosh, they just
this is in my notes. Overpowered. This race is crazy, man.
Wait, so it's guidance, light, resistance, sacred flame, spare the dying, and thaumaturgy.
I didn't remember reading that it was you can change it anytime you want at a long rest. That is very.
It's probably changed. Yeah, that's kind of crazy that it's part of the lore, like you're connected to like these bestial gods, or something. And so that's, I think, a piece of evidence that they're definitely not going to replace stuff like Aarakocra, because this is pretty niche to a lore. You can use it however you want in your settings, and please do. But it's these are divine lineaged beings, which is crazy.
Which really makes me like spare the dying on it.
Yeah.
Using some of maybe you hail from some kind of bestial god and you still have a little bit of their divine power in you, and you can use it to stop your friend from bleeding out.
Yeah, pretty
okay, it's not super overpowered. It's only six cantrips, but it's definitely, I would say, unnecessary, but very cool to have.
Agreed.
All
right.
But let's move on to
Yeah.
Dragonborn, why don't we? Who, in my opinion, got a pretty significant buff compared to 5th edition.
I would agree.
So we still have our cone attack based on what type of dragon you pick.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty great still. And then now we, right off the bat, get resistance to whatever type of damage. I don't believe that was in 5th edition, was it? Or it came at a later level or something?
No, I believe it was part of, because it's your race. It's the race. It was something you picked. It didn't change at higher levels.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Because I know it said like
you're thinking of the draconic sorcerer.
No. It was something in Dragonborn that it was like pick. You're gonna pick this type of dragon, and this is gonna come into play at later levels as well. Even though you start out with a cone attack, there's another feature that I can't remember now.
Isn't it it's like some kind of RP bonus with the dragon of that color or something like that?
Maybe so, but either way, the real big thing is these new freaking wings.
Well, at 5th level, yeah.
At 5th level, which is great because that's around the time people start being able to just cast fly or do whatever they want. So it's not going to make your DM tear their hair out whenever they try to give you a challenge at low levels where they could just be like, I fly up there.
I love the idea of races leveling up. I'm sorry, species leveling up. You don't
really got to get with the times, man.
I'm sorry.
You're going to get us canceled.
But species leveling up, and you haven't reached the pinnacle of your species. You probably haven't reached in real life the pinnacle of the human body, but maybe at 5th level, you're probably pretty close to that and you get a bonus or something. So the idea that Dragonborn, once they get to a certain level, they actually are able to unlock their wings. Super neat. By the way, in the description on the PDF, it no longer says they are tailless.
Oh, very good. That's
very good.
That's so far the most significant improvement I think they've made in One D&D.
Okay, so you both like this edition.
I like it. It's
cool.
5th level. It's also it's got a 10-minute time limit on it. Yeah, I love it.
Okay, great. I don't like it.
Fuck you.
Imagine that, say you're a Dragonborn and you're going over a battlefield and you pop your wings out, you're flying over and you're literally breathing fire, doing a strafing maneuver with your fire breath. In D&D, that seems like something that I just want to do. It's so cool. It's the ultimate rule of cool thing built into the actual rules.
And who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to do that? What kind of sick, twisted bastard wouldn't want to have fun like that in D&D?
Now imagine you're fighting a whole army of people who can do that.
Oh, God.
That's kind of cool. You have to come up with some, countermeasures.
Yes,
D&D
it
AAA.
is a cool idea to have a winged, fire-breathing protagonist. I can appreciate the point you're making. But I don't know. Why does everything that can possibly in some way fly need to fly?
We haven't seen that in One D&D yet. The flyers don't even fucking fly.
I don't like the Aasimar. This is kind of like the Aasimar ability where the Radiant Soul, where they can pop wings out, but that is at least for only 1 minute. And I don't know. I don't like having this baked into an entire species that is so varied as the Dragonborn. Like you're a barbarian, and you can pop out magical looking ethereal wings, because that's also in the description. It takes on the same nature as your not
every species. I mean, look, every caster
you don't get to unlock
not every caster, but any wizard, any sorcerer, some others can do that around, what is it, 5th level? Yeah.
And they can do it for longer.
Yeah.
And the Aasimar version is, you just said, like, protagonist. Like, it's going to be like, I'm the main character because I can fly. If you're an Aasimar, I could see that. You bust out these angelic wings and you go do something. But this is just, you get dragon wings and you go and do your thing for 10 minutes. I think it's a lot. Imagine a whole party of Dragonborn now. Now how cool is it? Like,
Okay.
I love it, man. I think it's super neat. And I
Great.
think, what would you think then if instead of 5th level, it was maybe 8th or 9th?
I would like it better.
So you still have a benefit of being able to fly because you're a high level or a 5th level spellcaster.
In something you said earlier, I actually kind of tweaked my thought process a little bit. I like the idea of also progressing in your species as well as your class. And that was something I hadn't really thought of earlier. So I don't necessarily think Nate, you said earlier that it's at the same level as when people get access to the 3rd level spell fly. And you're right. This way it keeps it balanced in that way, but I don't know that it should be the equivalent of the spell lists, And so I'm probably wrong, but whatever.
Well, you know
Ding
what?
dong, your opinion is wrong.
There's nothing wrong whatsoever with having an opinion. And if you want to have your opinion known, you can give your opinion on D&D Beyond from what you think about these Unearthed Arcana. And especially if you've playtested it, they will read that and use it in order to make the next One D&D better than 5th edition.
I'm going to use the feedback to tell them preemptively to not listen to Steve.
I will say this, though. I actually, the flight thing isn't that big of a deal to me. I thought about it and I was like, yeah, but so I put that in my notes. But I do feel pretty strongly about is, so they already changed the breath weapon of the Dragonborn. It used to be awful, right? It didn't scale well at all. And they already changed it to act more like a cantrip, which is definitely the way to go, I think. That puts it scalable with everyone else's cantrip. And power level is about the same, yada, yada. Many, many different races get cantrips right from the beginning anyways. So, but I don't understand why the dragon breath needs to have a limitation on its use. Because if its damage output is like that of a cantrip, it scales like a cantrip, and it takes an action to use, then your character is having to make a choice between using a cantrip and doing some other feature. And like I said, many other races, like a high elf at level 11, is casting Firebolt cantrip with about the same damage output, but with a much better range, I would point out, too. So, it's not overpowered. Why can't Dragonborn just be able to use their breath weapon as a cantrip? I don't see why it needs to have a limitation.
It's because they can also fly.
Well, oh, shit. All right, you got me.
All right, let's move on to the next species covered in this PDF.
The Goliath.
Which finally, the Goliath are getting the ethnicity treatment that the Ganassi had. So typical Goliath, cool. You're big, you're tall, about 7 to 8 feet tall. You got long legs, so you have 35 speed on by default. You live to be about 80 years old. However, now you're not just a pasty stone-looking guy from the mountain. You can be descended from different giants. You have giant ancestry, which is super neat. I imagine there's going to be a ton of cloud giant Goliaths everywhere. They're just so cool. And you're gonna talk to me about not being able to have what do you just say? Not being able to fly and have your breath weapon at all times. A cloud Goliath, as a bonus action, can teleport up to 30 feet to an occupied space that they can see. They got Misty Step that they can use as a bonus action.
Yeah.
With, as I'm currently reading, no drawback.
A number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, so there is a limitation on it.
I can't read.
I thought when I was reading through it the first time too, I was like, "Wait, could they just do that all the time?"
We all made the same mistake, it seems, because I did that too. But no, I definitely. It says a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain your uses after a long rest. It's probably still the winner because a Misty Step. When you can hold on to it when you really need it, and when at higher levels you got 3 or 4 uses of it.
If you're
that's still very cool.
It's amazing. If you're a marshal, you can use it to get into people's faces. That's amazing. it's hard to really go against how versatile that ability is.
Yeah, it's probably the most scalable because it's going to be as useful at level 20 as it is at level 1, really. But some of these other, if you're playing and what you know isn't going to be a campaign that's going to go to that higher tier level of play, which the majority don't by a good amount, I believe. Those like the Fires Burn, the ones that are adding damage, 1d10, that's pretty good.
When you hit a target with an attack roll and deal damage to it, you can also deal 1d10 fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is called Fires Burn. And Frost Chill, it's the same thing, except you deal 1d6 cold damage, and you reduce 10 feet of speed from the target.
That Stone's Endurance could come in pretty clutch. You can use your reaction to take away D12 plus con mod damage.
That, at low levels, like a low-level Rage on the Barbarian, that's really strong.
Yeah, that basically nullifies an attack at very
You
low.
can nullify several attacks at low levels. Yeah. They would be like, all right, I hit you and I deal 15 damage. And you could potentially get rid of all of that.
So there's the Hills Tumble, the Hill Giant Goliath, and it's just if you hit or when you hit a large or smaller creature with an attack roll and deal damage to it, you can knock that target prone.
No saving throw mentioned for that.
No saving throw.
That's pretty huge for marshals too, because you
go first. If you have first in the initiative and you have the Edward Scissorhands behind you, the fighter, you knock the guy prone, and then the fighter just cuts him into a million pieces.
Oh yeah, yes. I wouldn't be surprised to see that amended a bit because that is very powerful. No saving throw.
I think I'll probably put some of my feedback onto that. That's maybe there is supposed to be something, they just didn't put it in on accident.
Yeah, but with in the context of combat and especially making plans with your teammates, you can easily make when you know for a fact that somebody's then going to be prone, you can make a great, very effective plan around that.
You're a bowling ball.
Yeah. Great.
There's not a limit to how many times you can use it a turn, right? It's just per long rest.
That's part of a Battle Master maneuver, the tripping attack, except it doesn't add any extra damage, but there's no saving throw.
The number of times that you can attack per turn, that's the only limit. Yeah.
Or the number of times that you hit with an attack.
Or I should say, yes. Yeah.
And then we have the Storm Giant ability for the Goliath. When you take damage from a creature within 60 feet of you, so range and casters, that's neat. You can use a reaction to deal 1d8 thunder damage to that creature. You get a little mini Hellish Rebuke.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
It's
not bad. It's not the one I would choose if I wanted to optimize a character, but it is kind of cool.
It is flavorful. I want quick side rant for a second. Storm giants are supposed to be the greatest, most powerful of all giants, but everything storm giant related that comes down into the players is usually like very bland and not as good as other giant flavor stuff. And it's weird.
Propaganda.
I totally, yes.
They just have the best PR team is all it is.
Yeah.
And then
another species, dang it. Another species that levels up, or you get an ability when you level up.
Shame on you.
I know, shame on me.
All right, so not the last thing, but we have large form for Goliath. Starting at 5th level, you gain the ability to supernaturally grow as a bonus action to large for 10 minutes. Advantage. It's basically the enlarge, reduce, you enlarge.
The enlarge.
Except you don't get the extra damage. So you have advantage on strength, increased speed, once per long rest. So
it's all right.
I don't really like this. It's not that I think it's bad or anything. I don't like that the Goliath needs to get bigger to like do this thing. I feel like the whole thing about Goliath is they're already friggin' big, which kind of comes through on the next one is we have Power for Build, which is a holdover from 5e, even though it's implemented different. But advantage on any saving throw to end grappled on yourself, and one size larger when determining carrying capacity and what you can push, drag, or lift. That's great. Yeah, like I said, I just don't like this idea that you need to get bigger to do big boy stuff. It's like you're already supposed to be. You are the big boy,
I think
big
we
person,
probably
big
are all
Goliath.
comfortable with flavoring this as you just mini rage rather than
Yeah.
grow bigger. What happens to your clothes? Every time you use this ability, they just pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, this and the I question the internal logic of how the Goliath is now stronger for strength checks, but doesn't get any benefit to strength-based attacks. Like, this isn't really the spell Enlarge Reduce. It's not nearly as versatile. You can't use it on other objects. You can't use it on other people, and it can't reduce at all. So why not just give that aspect to it as well? You know, and if like you're like what Nate said, they don't need to be the big boys. Like, they're already big. But if you're going to go through this trouble to giving them a feature similar to the dragon's wings, why don't they actually get something as useful as flight? You know, I agree. I think they should get an extra like D6 of damage or something like that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, even though I still just don't like it in concept. But
I tend to think that I think the species can be on different power levels. Like an elf doesn't have to sleep 8 hours a night. I think that's super powerful, among other things. I don't think they all have to be on the same parity level.
Okay. That's fair.
I am liking this trend, though. We already touched on it, of getting an extra thing at 5th level from your species.
It's neat.
That's cool.
And if that
I don't believe the Ardlings did, but they already are pretty good. So
if that changed per species, like if Dragonborn got theirs at 9th level, the flight at 9th level, I think that would be fine. I know One D&D is going to be about simplifying everything, making everything a lot more easy and approachable for the average D&D player. But I don't think that would be too crazy.
Is that really like the main intent behind One D&D?
That's what the intent behind 5th edition was too.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like, isn't that 5e though? Like, and 5e is super easy to get into.
It is for certain people, but if you try to explain it to some people, it is still very difficult to grasp at a glimpse.
I don't know how much more simpler you can get and still bring everything to the table that you want to see in a TTRPG.
Well, that's what we're going through, man.
But I mean, I guess we'll
keep coming to these table talks and we'll show you.
But thus far, I don't know that anything has looked particularly simplified to me as compared to 5th edition. I've liked a lot of the changes I've seen. I think they're improvements. I'm not sure I would call them simpler necessarily.
The class conglomerates or the classes. What are they called again? Class archetypes.
The groupings.
Class groupings.
Expert classes.
Yeah, I think that's...
We know what we're talking about, listeners. Don't worry.
I'm very smart. Anyway, moving on past the species.
So there's a... Do you guys want
too much left, do we?
You guys
it's just
talk
the
about
feats,
the
right? It's the epic boons, these level 20...
Yeah, I don't
these
have
level
much to
20
say on
things.
them.
It's pretty cool. It's like, I think these are caster focused. One is like, you can add or subtract a D10 whenever a D20 check is made. It's like, yeah, that could totally come in clutch.
I'm going to be honest. I really don't like the 20th level feats. Not only is that it's content that 5%, if that, of D&D players will ever see, all of it just seems like I'm just going to turn this into a magic item later because I'm not going to run a campaign that goes to 20th level.
Yeah. This seems like... no.
Yeah, it's a...
The other one is... All right, so we have the Epic Boon of Fate, which I just said... add or subtract a D10 from a D20 test. That's on every initiative or short rest or long rest. That's pretty good. Kind of boring, but it's good. And then Epic Boon is Spell Recall. You can basically get a free spell 5th level or lower every long rest. Again, pretty good. Not really level 20 good, but also kind of boring.
Level 20 good.
And so the Fate one, I will say, it does allow for wizards to make these monsters and for people to homebrew monsters that have like 40 AC, and you're able to add that extra 10. You can really make some godlike creatures that you'll now actually be able to hit.
To me as a player, that's like, I'm saving that for when one of us gets hit by like a save or suck spell by something huge. I'll just be like, nope, add a D10. Come on, please. And then the last one is Epic Boon of True Sight. You have True Sight out to 60 feet. That's so situational. Again, I feel like I'd throw that in a magic item if it's so necessary for my campaign.
I'm a level 19 adventurer. I can't just go find some True Sight goggles. I'm damn near a god myself. Just give me these True Sight goggles.
I don't need to see you. I'm just going to cast like Meteor Storm near general area. And bye.
Yeah. All right, then. So there are a couple of rule things that I want to talk about. One that I noticed was different is the influence action, which is more defined. It appears, I think, that it was always treated as kind of a free action when you go to talk to somebody in combat or something like that. But now it's an actual action where you go to influence somebody, and it has even the categories the skill checks that could be listed under it, like deception, persuasion, animal handling, intimidation. I agree with the concept that if you are in combat and you attempt to convince the bandit to surrender, you don't have time any longer to then attack them should they, say no. So I like that it's being considered an action. Though that does seem to be a change. But according to the rules, the minimum DC is 15, which seems high.
It says in the Dungeon Master's Guide, you can make with the DC whatever you want. But,
okay, well, we're talking about this document, though, and I just think that's a high DC to set as the just generic whatever.
This reminds me of a lot of sort of homebrew stuff I've heard other GMs using in their social interactions, which I like. It provides a little bit of structure and guidance to how to run something like that so that you maintain consistency between social encounters. Yeah,
the way that the influence action is now an action, and instead it takes away the sort of free proficiency action that you normally get to do in a turn of initiative. I use a perception check that's not gonna cost against your action economy, but actually having an influence action, it's interesting.
I think it's good to have it defined, because there have definitely been times where we have said something like, Ryan, I want to do this. And you're going to be like, okay, but it's going to take your action to do that. Yeah. And those types of situations will still always arise for DMs and players. But talk about making it more simplistic. This defines it in a way that is across all games understandable. So I think it's a good change.
I don't know who this sentence in the description is for, but this is not mind control.
Yeah, it's just the classic, a nat 20 on a persuasion check doesn't mean you're mind controlling someone.
Yeah. All right. I persuade you to slit your own throat.
And name me your heir as the ruler, the kingdom of the ruler. Yes, the ruler of the kingdom before you do so.
All right. So the last rule thing that I wanted to talk about is this just blew my mind. And I went back and read 5e stuff to see if this was at all the way in 5e, but it's not. It appears to be a new change under special speeds. If you guys are looking at the document, it says you are forced to choose only one type of movement speed per turn. If you have 40 feet of movement speed, you can't run 20 feet and then climb 20 feet. You have to identify what type of movement speed you want to use, and you can only pick one.
I think that's stupid. A detriment to this simplification.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
That's insane to me.
Like I don't understand where it's coming from. It makes no sense. Wizards. Like you can't.
Thank you guys.
I guess I could see okay, if you go from swimming to running, you need to take some time to get up out of the water and stuff. Or if you're climbing, you need to take some time to get up, get yourself over the edge. That's the only way I can see it kind of making sense when you think about it. But at the same time, it's like,
yeah. If we played with this rule, I would never be able to play my ranger character Galen ever again, because he was all about using every aspect of the movement economy.
I feel like it's just taking away something that was never a problem.
Yeah, it's like I run 5 feet, and I get to a wall. Now I have to wait for 6 seconds and then start climbing the wall.
Yeah,
not something that I think is necessary.
That's
either.
Insane.
downright silly.
And certainly, like, the opposite direction of rule of cool stuff we're talking about for the Dragonborn's wings. So,
and if you agree with us, make sure you let them know with your feedback, just as we will.
Yeah. If you agree with us, you can sleep easy tonight, knowing that you're right.